Hello, what you're about to watch are clips from women talking about Elvis Presley. People find it very easy to make documentaries, make programmes that focus on the negative, that focus on the sensational. But it's very simple. It's a very easy Google search. It's a very easy YouTube search, and you will find the truth. The truth is out there, and it shall set you free. So, I hope you enjoy the true story of Elvis and women. Enjoy.
Work was perhaps an hour on stage and a few rehearsals, and the rest of the time we were together. And even, of course, during his shows I was there. So you have to view the person that you're living with as a human soul, not as Elvis Presley on the marquee. So it's a little disturbing to see him viewed just totally as a commodity.
I really saw that, and I realized I needed him. I needed maturity, and that was when I really realized that I was in love with him.
You know, there are millions of women who would love to have traded places with you and had the kind of relationship that you had with Elvis. Was he a romantic individual?
Yes, he knew what to say. He could take anything ugly and make it sound beautiful. And he was very, very religious. And we would talk many hours each night on different philosophies. He had certain philosophies and different books. And he had a beautiful way of speaking, really.
A tender individual, a loving individual?
Yes, very. He was very, I've never noticed it on anybody on earth, the certain kind of love that he had. And it was true.
Elvis and I made a movie together called Viva Las Vegas. And we remained close friends after that. And I cherish the memory of that friendship. He was a good man. He was kind, very respectful, a gentleman. But I'm not just here tonight as someone who knew him or worked with him. I'm here as you are, a fan, an admirer, as someone who sits in an audience and loves to be entertained. And Elvis entertained with that special kind of excitement that only he had. And excitement is the word to describe the two shows you're about to see. You're going to see Elvis's sense of humor, the fun, the warmth, the kindness, and the strength. Ladies and gentlemen.
Even in this world, in our memories. But I think that he is in another dimension. And it's comforting to me, before I go to sleep at night, to know within my own soul that wherever Elvis is now, he knows who truly loved him. He knows who had high regard. Those of us who had high regard for him as a human being, as a human entity, not as a commodity. And he knows that now. And that's comforting.
Who wouldn't, right? He was just gorgeous. That's when he was thin, and he was beautiful and handsome, and he had, like you say, he was very spiritual and charisma. He was the king, He was sexy, great kisser.
Everything he did, he enjoyed life. And he was certainly fun to work with, and certainly made you feel very comfortable in what you were doing. If you were to err, he would laugh, and he was a very real person. I'm attracted to people that aren't fake, and he seemed just down home and comfortable to be with.
And Elvis will be interested because she just spent 2 or 3 months working with a fellow who is literally a legend in show business, a man named Elvis Presley. I really ought to take you over and throw you to the girls and let them ask you questions. How did you find it? Was he a pleasant man?
Yes, he's a very, very nice person. He's the epitome of a Southern gentleman. He's a lot of fun.
It's you like that. If you interview other people, they'll tell you the same thing. When he entered a room, everything elevated. It just did. He was born with it.
But what was he like as a person? So he was a good kisser.
Funny and sweet and fidgety. He would always be moving, either his foot going up.
Yeah, he sounds like a nice guy, actually.
Very nice guy.
All right, let me ask you.
I don't know. I felt that Elvis was a very simple, loyal young man, and I think he felt that he'd made a deal with the Colonel and that he had to honor it. You have to realize that this is a young man who grew up in a very straight family in that he was taught all the ethics of you will be honorable and you will do this. And I think he found a great conflict because I think he always wanted to do the right thing. And Colonel Tom made the deal. Also, if you don't have a great deal of education and people tell you that this is what's going to work for you, see, it's very easy for us to sit here and say what we would do. But we have to walk in somebody else's shoes to really...
And whatever you hear about Elvis, about how handsome he was or how warm he was, there's no way you know how really true that actually was. He was amazing. And what surprised me about him is he never met a stranger. They weren't people with Elvis. They were individuals. And when he met you and talked to you, you thought you had already known him. He was just like, maybe that he lived next door to you. It was just an amazing thing that surprised me because he was such a big star. And that surprised me so much, is that we felt like we knew each other. And I think he had that feeling with about everybody that ever met him. You come around special, that you were close.
The man was beautiful. From the beginning of that movie to the end, he had those beautiful Southern manners. He was funny. He came in prepared to work. He asked whatever, he would do what was ever asked of him.
You were 7 years older, I think, but you played his mother in Blue Hawaii. What was that experience like?
Well, I was obviously awed by being in the presence, and but he was an awfully nice young man in those days. He always was a wonderfully nice young man, very caring person. He had his terrible problems, a very personal nature, but in those days he'd just come out of the army. He was fit, he was slender, and he was at top of his form. And he couldn't have been nicer to me. We had a lovely time. It was a wonderful location. We were on Kauai in the Hawaiian Islands. I'll never forget it. It was really wonderful.
The picture that we just showed.
Oh, well, I adored him. And as I mentioned to you, it wasn't acting. I genuinely loved him and adored him and admired him.
You know, he was known as a ladies' man, but you were a little lady.
I had a different relationship with him than all the other Elvis's women co-stars.
Yeah. But you know, he was such a big star. I guess I'm just a little surprised that he was so genuinely, he cared about a little girl. You would expect this very handsome star to be all over the, the leading ladies of a film, but
well, I don't know, maybe he was dating Nancy. I don't know.
But he was genuinely sweet to you, right?
Oh,
like he took a lot of time.
We spent most of our on-set, off-camera time together, whether it was at lunch or feeding my little cat, or all the special things we would do. We made books. We would color. I was making books for the what would be Lisa Marie, because he announced the pregnancy during the
and he
filming.
Would sit and color with you?
We would sit and color. We would make books. I'm told they may even be in the archives somewhere at Graceland, where I would love to find them.
That is amazing. I can imagine you would.
Elvis was very sensitive about who a person was and what they needed. And so I was very shy, and he treated me like a princess. He treated me with such care, like I was a hothouse flower.
I am not, it's kind of sweet. I can talk about it now because I'm an old lady. And but I fell in love with him. I just thought he was the best.
Doesn't everybody want to fall in love?
We just had a lovely romance, and it was sweet and tender. I wouldn't change it for a moment. Like coming back was very hard, but because we came back to all the fanfare and the crazy ladies, and it was different.
We were not lovers, we were friends and spiritual partners. Elvis was my teacher spiritually. He introduced me to a whole way of looking at life. He started me out on a spiritual path that I've been on ever since.
Friend. Quality that it was a fascination. You couldn't look away from him.
But on stage, he turned into this animal, and he was wonderful, wonderful.
He's an artist. Elvis was an artist.
What was it like to kiss Elvis Presley? It was neat. He's a good kisser. It was nice to be kissing someone that you liked and doing romantic scenes with someone that you liked. And then you could both back away from it and laugh.
It was a little simple, innocent kiss, so I don't know how he really kissed. I would imagine he could kiss pretty good.
Oh, yeah, he's kissed real good. And more than that, too. I don't think, as far as a screen image goes, there is anyone as sexy as Elvis was.
Did you like him a lot?
I loved him. He was an incredible man. You know, he had guys that worked with him that were Italian. He had Jewish guys. He had Christian guys, and he always wore a Jewish star and a cross because he didn't want to get shut out of heaven on a technicality. He was a funny man. We were his friends, you know. We were it.
Huge bed. And then he tried to make a little move on me, and I said, no, really, I have to go home now. So he took me home, and that was the first date we had. He was a gentleman about it.
What was he like to be in love with? I imagine you were in love with him.
I was. He was my first love. I met him when I was 19 years old, and I came from a very conservative family, and I'd never gone steady or anything. So, of course, when I met Elvis, I did fall in love with him, and he did with me. We had a wonderful time, great fun together. I love the guy.
What was he like as a date?
He was fabulous. It was fun. He was very thoughtful, almost motherly.
He didn't sleep, right?
No, he was, he suffered from insomnia. He was very much, I think a lot of geniuses are like that. Just can't turn it off.
To him like you did. Talk about Elvis Presley.
Oh, golly, I was so lucky. Just, people come to me and they say, girl, you're so lucky. And I said, I know. You know, no surprise to me. I was friends with DIXIE, Locke, who was dating Elvis. And that's how I got to know him in the first instance. And after they broke up, I just ran into him again at that same station where we went to see you. I was doing little bits on television for Pearl and Lowenstein, where I worked. And I bet he had been up there to see you.
Yeah, he came a couple of times, yeah.
And he was peeping in the window at the TV studio where I had been, and when I walked out, he just looked at me, recognized me right away, and said, how's Dixie? And I thought that was so dear because I knew from her that they had been broken up for quite some time, and I just thought it was wonderful that he still cared, you know, how she was and that she was okay.
And that led on to you starting to date him?
Yeah, he said, I'm going out of town tomorrow, can I call you? And of course. I didn't have to hesitate for that answer. And he did. He called the very next day, and practically every day from then on.
You met his mom, Gladys.
The project at hand now, because you've recently starred in a thing called Tickle Me with a fellow named Elvis Presley. Now, there have been others here who visited us on Bandstand who worked with Mr. Presley. Give me a one-line capsule of what's he like.
Oh, he's just so marvelous. You know.
Did you like him as an individual? Did you like him?
He's very nice, and he's marvelous to work with.
Did you kiss him?
Uh-huh, I kissed him.
What was it like?
Well...
That's enough, that's enough.
Elvis, we went to work for Elvis Presley for 5 weeks, and it was wonderful. He was wonderful. I loved him. He was such a gentleman and all that to me, you know.
Tell me about that.
Well, when they first called, the girl said, Elvis Presley, oh my God, what are we going to do? I said, hey, it's a gig and it's a good one. So we went, and when we got there, it was nothing like what we might have thought, you know, because it was just wonderful. It was really wonderful. He was into gospel. So every once in a while when we finished rehearsing with him, we just sing gospel, all of us, you know. And we just had a good time. He would get good money and good pay and good, it was nice atmosphere, you know, and we didn't go around with him as his friends. We worked for him. So we saw him at work or at rehearsals. So I don't know what he did in between, nor did I care. You know, I just doing what I was
So anyway, we started dating, and he's a really wonderful, sexy, incredible guy, and you can actually read the chapter.
Looking at those chiseled features and everything, it was kind of hard for me not to stare at Elvis, and you know, and he would touch me, and just, I mean, he was just absolutely gorgeous, just so chiseled, you know, and that Greek god look about him, and his deep blue eyes, and his little southern twang. He was beautiful. He was the love of my life.
And raised a family after that time, so I didn't follow his career as closely as a lot of people did, but I said the times that I knew him during the young, innocent, early days of his career,
and just saw what a loving, compassionate man he was. It was very